Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a really big question, one that could change the future for an entire nation. Should Ghana's government make the switch to open source software? This isn't just about technology. It's a debate about money, about control, and about the very foundation of a country's digital future. So let's just jump right in with this central question. Could changing the way a government thinks about software, just that one philosophical shift, actually save millions of dollars and completely change its path toward technological independence? That's really the heart of what we're digging into today. And you should know, this is not just some academic exercise. This is happening right now on the world stage. Take Switzerland, a country you think of as being incredibly stable and precise. Well, just this year, they passed a law that says all new government software has to be open source. The code has to be public. That move really puts a global spotlight on this idea, and it's a path that countries like Ghana are seriously looking at. Okay, so to really get why this conversation is so critical for Ghana, we have to start by looking at the real-world problems, the digital growing pains the country has been dealing with. Let's start with this number, $212 million US. That was roughly the funding for a huge project called e-Transform. It started way back in 2013, and the goal was fantastic: improve all kinds of government services with technology. But, despite that massive investment, it's been criticized for just not delivering the kind of effective, game-changing results that everyone hoped for. And this chart tells a really powerful story. Take the country's digital address system. It was launched with a ton of hype, seen as this key piece of modern infrastructure. But look at this, a staggering 62% of public agencies aren't even using it. And that just highlights a huge issue. You can build the tech, but if people don't or can't use it, what's the point? And this isn't a one-off thing. Just earlier this year, the Office of Registered Companies missed its big deadline to launch a new online system for businesses. Now, to be fair, there have been some huge wins. The Ghana.gov platform for paying taxes is a great success story. But when you zoom out, you see this pattern of struggling to get these big digital projects off the ground and scaled up across the board. But here's where the risk gets really scary. Let's just imagine a scenario for a minute. Picture this. It's May of next year, and a single private company, let's call them Lightwave Solutions, provides the software that runs electronic health records. And they suddenly threaten to just turn it off for hospitals all across the country. And in our hypothetical situation, here's why. The company says it's because the government failed to renew its contract on time. Now, in the real world, these things often get worked out, but this scenario is the textbook definition of something called vendor lock-in. It's when a country's essential public services become a hostage to the business negotiations of one single company. It's a really vulnerable position to be in. So with all those challenges on the table, it brings us to the potential game changer we're talking about today, the open source alternative. So what exactly is it, and how could it fix some of these problems? All right, let's get a really simple definition down. Open source software, or OSS, is basically software where the recipe, the actual source code, is made public. Anyone can look at it, they can tweak it to fit exactly what they need, and they can even share their improvements with everyone else. It's all about working together out in the open.
So let's break that down. With the old school proprietary software, you're usually paying fees over and over again for a kind of black box. You can't see the code, you can't really change it much, and you're stuck with that one company. But with open source, it's a totally different world. The software itself is usually free, the code is public, it's super flexible, and, this is key, you get to choose who you work with. No more lock-in.
So let's talk about the first and maybe most obvious benefit. We're talking about radical cost effectiveness. For any government, the budget is everything. And maybe the biggest selling point for open source is the potential to save a mind-boggling amount of money. And we're not talking about small change. Look at this example from France. A large city there saved 1 million euros every single year just by switching from Microsoft Office to an open source alternative called LibreOffice. Now imagine that kind of savings multiplied across every single piece of software an entire government uses. Those recurring license fees, they just vanish. But here's the thing, it's not just about saving cash. It's about getting software that actually works for you. With open source, you can tailor it to your specific local needs. A perfect example is Brazil. They customized open source systems for their government, and it made things way more efficient than some one-size-fits-all product ever could. Plus, it means you can hire local developers to do the work, which builds up your own tech community. And that leads us right back to that scary scenario we imagined with the healthcare software. With open source, that vendor lock-in problem basically disappears. The government owns the system itself, not just a permission slip to use it. If a company that's helping you isn't doing a good job, you can just hire a different one without losing all your data and starting from scratch. The power is back in your hands. Now, a question I hear all the time is, wait, if the code is public, isn't that less secure? Well, actually, the evidence points in the other direction. It's the many eyes theory. With so many experts all over the world able to look at the code, bugs and security flaws get found and fixed way faster. In fact, studies have actually shown that systems like Linux tend to be more secure than their closed-source competitors. Okay, but let's be realistic. This isn't some magic wand you can wave. Making a nationwide switch to open source is a massive undertaking, and it comes with its own set of very real challenges that you have to be ready for. So what are these hurdles? Well, for one, if a security hole is found, everyone knows about it instantly. So you need a skilled team that is ready to apply fixes immediately. Second, free doesn't mean there are no rules. Open source licenses can get complicated, and you have to make sure you're following them. And third, you've got to make all this new software play nicely with the old systems that are already running. These are all solvable problems, but they take planning, resources, and expertise. And all of this brings us to our final section, and to the real heart of the matter. This decision goes way beyond the IT department. It's a strategic choice about what a nation's digital future is actually going to look like. And that's the bottom line, really. This whole debate, it isn't just about software. It's about control. It's about who holds the keys to the digital kingdom. Is a country's future in the hands of foreign companies, or is it in the hands of its own people? This is a question of digital sovereignty. So we end up right back where we started, with a fundamental choice. For Ghana, and for so many other countries at this same crossroads, which path do you take? Do you go with the short-term convenience of ready-made products, or do you make the long-term investment in building a future that's flexible, independent, and truly your own? The answer to that is going to define a generation.